let's just keep it going. Could you please welcome to the stage my wonderful guest this afternoon? We've got, and you have to sit in this order, paying attention, Dakota Schiffer, Belle Priestley, and Dr. Ronx, Ikharia. Right. Immediately.
Oh, sorry, I thought we were doing it. I thought we were doing it one by one.
No, I'm gonna already. I'm going to come near it because I've got earpieces in. I can't hear a thing. Also, I just think this is quite creepy.
I love it.
I have a voice in my... have I ruined things for everyone by moving the chair? God says nothing. We're fine. Okay. You know who I am. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can we start off with a really, really easy question? Can we just start off by getting you to introduce yourselves and your pronouns, please? Starting with Dakota.
Hi, I'm Dakota Schiffer, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, I'm Belle Priestley, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Ronx, and my pronouns are they, them.
Fab, fab, fab. You are very lucky. You might have seen my guests on the telly. If you are not familiar with Belle, you're about to be, because she will be joining the cast of Heartstopper in season 2. And fear not, stay tuned. I'm going to try and extract some sort of information from Belle later in the chat. It's going to be crumbs. The mice have been fed better than you will be fed this afternoon. Because none of us want Netflix swinging down from the ceiling to take Belle out. That would be brutal. No, the title of today's panel is The Joys of the Gender Journey. I wanted to call it The Dolls. But then it wasn't just trans women, because we've got Dr. Ronx as well, so we couldn't call this panel The Dolls.
Oh, you could. I would have, you know.
Oh, no, then we're back. We're back. Welcome to The Dolls. The Dolls with Juno, Dawson. This is also, as I said, it was meant to be a fireside chat.
There's no fire.
I was picturing s'mores, I was picturing marshmallows on sticks. I had this vision of pajamas, and that we would all be in like little sleeping bags. This is shit. This is just a fucking sofa.
We're too flammable.
And do you know what's nice? This year we're not live streaming, so I can say anything. The C word, when will it appear?
Okay.
It's fine. I once did it, and I was told off, so I'm not going to do it again. I'm from Bradford. I want to start this session with the Debbie Downer now, which is we on this stage, it might be the first time since season 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race that everybody on stage has been transgender or non-binary. So, thank you. Thank you, Student Pride, for centering our experiences, which is really nice. And we're first up as well. That's not usual.
No pressure.
But what we're going to do is I want to start off by saying this is the panel is called The Joy of the Gender Journey. But as for gender variant people, we are well aware that the UK is a steaming bin fire of a mess right now for trans people. We recognise that things are really hard. We recognise that there are going to be some people in this audience who are finding the current system in the UK incredibly, incredibly trying at the moment. And we know that, but that would have been really heavy for an event called Student Pride. I am really proud to be trans.
Woo!
But also, when people say to me, how do you know you're trans? The best answer is, well, because every day that I've lived this way, I have been happier and I have had more joy in my life. Thank you. Keep clapping my sentences. It's like a full stop. Well, that was the end of a sentence. And so today we are going to be focusing on that. We are going to be focusing on the reason we do this, the reason we live this way is because it is the more joyful way for us to be. But I didn't want you to think that these bitches in their media bubble talking about their joy. No, we get it. We get it. And our fight is your fight and your fight is our fight. But let's talk about joy. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, guys. So there is going to be trigger warning. We've not planned this. I don't know what my guests are going to say today. So just be mindful that you know Student Pride have got you covered. There are so many chill-out spaces upstairs. There are puppies upstairs. please don't go see the puppies until you finished here. I'll be going to see the puppies after this. But I just wanted you to know I don't know what's going to come up. So just look after your mental health always. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I'm going to come down the sofa. Hi, Dakota.
Hello.
It's the first time I've met Dakota today. It's really exciting.
A joy.
It is a joy.
It's a joy.
End of panel.
I'm running it.
That was the joy. And so this question I'm going to ask each of you in turn. Thinking about ourselves, none of us can speak on behalf of the community because the trans and non-binary community is not a monolith. At what point did you yourself realise, hold the fuck up?
I mean, I think it's always one of those tricky questions, and it's a question that you can be asked quite a lot as a trans person. And I think for me, as long as I can remember, I was subverting gender expectations for myself before I could even grasp what they were. And, you know, it's that very stereotypical story over, you know, the gender stereotypes that are placed upon children's toys and children's entertainment when you were growing up. I wanted to play with the girls. I associated more with them. I related more to them. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, those stereotypes are harmful in many ways, but to me it was like I was trapped in this prison of expectation that my father had of me and my peers and just society has of you. You know, it can be a really difficult journey to get out of. My dad's a super masculine Marine, so you know, the apple fell a little far from the tree, we always say. Flew from the tree.
Just shut off.
Shut off. So I'd say from just as long as I can remember, I was subverting those expectations and nothing fit. It was always a struggle to try and, you know, present male and live a life where masculinity was a part of it in my presentation because it just wasn't a part of me naturally. And it's very clear to my parents that was the case as well.
Belle, how was your experience the same or different from
Very similar to you, to be fair. I come from a small town, so...
Well, which small town are you allowed to say?
It's Netflix, got that on.
It's near Milton Keynes, which doesn't really get the biggest.
Wow, okay.
It's called Leighton Buzzard, El Bizzle, as I like to say. And basically, so I didn't know anyone trans. I didn't know what trans was. I just always, again, wanted to be a girl, play the girl things at school, be friends with the girls. And then when I turned sort of like 12, 13, like YouTube became a thing. I'm only 19, so it wasn't really around like when I was younger. And yeah, so I sort of learned from like online, like people like Monroe talking on like Piers Morgan, like that was how I sort of found out what trans was. And it was, the way I can describe it is like a puzzle piece, like finally clicking in, and it was like, it made so much sense. So, yeah.
And Ronx, how was your experience? So you identify as non-binary?
Yeah, and I would say my journey has been, I think it's a journey that's still continuing. And I use the term trans non-binary now, which sometimes makes sense and sometimes doesn't make sense. But I guess for lots of black and brown LGBTQI people, I think coming into our existence always takes a while because we're always grappling with all of the other intersections that we have. And I think for me, my transness and my non-binariness was the last one to come to fruition because I was grappling with like being black, being a doctor that doesn't come from like a background or a privileged background, and then existing as at the time, a lesbian black doctor. And there was just so many things that I was like, oh my God, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. And I think it's sometimes when you're especially a professional, it's only until you've got to a certain level of kind of seniority that you actually can settle into your existence. And I would say now, I would say that I use the term trans non-binary, all the time, because I want people, when they say my name, to say those two things as well, so that my visibility is there for everyone to see. But I don't, even with that, it's still not, I don't have a definition, I just know that it feels right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's really important, which isn't it? It's about finding the way to exist that suits you. And something that I really love about the sort of the Gen Z is that labels are at once both more and less important. And I think that's really exciting. Like Belle, I did not hear the word trans until I was 52 in the 18th century.
So you were 52?
Oh my, no, that's not far off.
Really?
Keep taking those hormones, kids. Just a little bit of testosterone with your estrogen. Just think on. So there's the two questions that any sort of trans or non-binary person they often get, so we'll get them both out of the way quite soon up front, and we'll come back down the surfer in the opposite direction. So there's the age at which you realise, fuck, and then there's the age at which you decide to do something about it. Ronx, what was kind of the catalyst for you to sort of make that change in your life?
For me, the catalyst to make a change in my life was the extreme unhappiness that I was existing within. And I came really, really far in my career. I'm on telly, blah, blah, blah. And then I was just like, I don't feel happy. And I started to regress. So I stopped going to the gym because I was quite fit and was wearing lycra, and I'd be sexualized by cis men. And I stopped going out because clothes didn't fit the way I wanted them to. And then people would say she, her, and I was like, but I'm not she, her, I don't feel it. But then there's that embarrassment of correcting folk, even though you haven't technically come out. And it got to a point where I felt that I was becoming just less than what I was, despite my career going. So I saw, like most people, I realized I couldn't access, despite working in the NHS, couldn't really access gender care within the NHS. And so was fortunate enough to see a psychiatrist back then when you had to, and go into gender care and do everything privately. So had my chest surgery, which I think probably was the day that when I came through from surgery was probably the best moment of my life, I think. Yeah, it really was. My friends captured it on my phone. I was very high on morphine, but I was very, very happy. And then starting T again is this like reaffirming. It's so hard to, I'm so glad that we don't have words for it, because if we had words for it, then everyone would use the word, like everyone goes, hey girl, bitch, darling. I like that gender affirmation for every single person means something different, but it's a feeling that all three of us just go, yeah, I get you.
Mm. When did it hit for you, Belle?
So as soon as I sort of figured out what trans was, I actually came out literally the next day.
No. Amazing.
In the car to my parents, and I was like, God, they're going to swerve the car. This is not going to go to plan.
Were you going really fast?
Really,
you wait till the slow bit.
And then, yeah, I came out at school, which was an interesting experience.
How old were you?
Oh God, probably year 10, so what, 13, 14? Yeah.
Am I allowed to ask, how did your parents react? Did they swerve off the side of the road?
No, I'm still here to tell. To be fair, no, they were really good. My dad, it was a bit of a shock, but after a few weeks, and they all sort of did the whole thing is it a phase? And I soon realised it was not a phase. Yeah, and I changed my name at school, started wearing skirts, sneaked into girls' toilets from there. Now we're here.
And how was it? Because to look at you now and the way you're speaking, happy big smile, was it joyful?
Oh, absolutely not. It was, to be fair, I sort of just went into school, kept my head down, got bullied in bits and bobs, but that's the weirdest way to describe it. But yeah, it's just, kids are kids, aren't they? And to be fair, a lot of them now have spoken to me since, and we've sort of mended things, and I don't hold any grudges from school, but it was really hard, to be fair.
And for Dakota, I guess your journey is somewhat complicated by your background in art and your artistry and drag. Mm-hmm. So at what point how did your transition and drag go hand in hand, kind of?
Drag was heavily involved in me finding my trans identity. It came first, and it was something that I used at the time as a crutch, and it was very visible, and I very much relate to what you were saying, Ronx, in that sense that I was diminishing as a human, and the only time I felt like I had any sort of gender euphoria was through drag, my drag artistry, because obviously you're presenting a hyper version or creative version of, it's just a look or something you imagined in your mind. And for me, I think, my drag's come a long way since, and the drag that was on Drag Race came a long way after I came out, because, I was, before that, it was very much a crutch, and I was very rigid, and a presentation, and that presentation I was looking for out of drag, should have been, where I started. And I think I come from a very different place in, the trans medicalism debate. I'm sat on the waiting list 3 years strong, haven't been seen or, received any, but received any sort of, feedback or contact from any sort of medical. So it sucks, but
It's bullshit.
I know, but we know obviously there's a trans healthcare crisis. But I also actually feel really proud to be sat here right now, and I've been socially transitioned for 4 years now. And medicalization isn't even something I think about that much at the moment, mainly not because I don't think it's an important process or it wouldn't be something I eventually pursue, but also because I've had to be resilient because of the healthcare that I've had access to me, and learn to love this version of myself right now. And
And yeah, I think in terms of, I mean, this is so off my questions and it's not one that I've got written down, but healthcare, obviously Ronx mentioned it and now Dakota's mentioned it. I can't sit here and pretend that for me as well it wasn't a definite goal, because it's a very tangible thing. And when so much of transness is intangible, you can see why any of us would be like, well, I see this goal, I see this goal and it will legitimize the experiences that I'm having. But I think it's great, like you say, that we can still find the affirmation without needing a doctor. No trans person, no non-binary person needs a doctor to give them a stamp of approval.
Absolutely.
And we need to keep emphasizing that, because we're living in a society where we're all looking towards binary endings of existence. So you need to pass. What does pass mean anyway? I love when Travis Alabanza, who is a very famous trans non-binary human, says that there is beauty in not passing, and also transness in itself is a complete separate entity away from cis existence, from looking female, looking male, whatever. Being trans is trans. And if somebody says to me, oh, you're not as masculine as, or why haven't you got a beard, or blah, blah, I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, transness is a spectrum. So I really hope that the younger generation, or people who are on the waiting list, etc., realize that medicalization that doesn't validate you as a trans person. It helps with the journey, but our existences are unique, and we need to stop looking to the cis straight gaze into transness and just look at transness from our own lens, and then I think we'll just be a lot happier as
And
well.
I'll say it again, we're so off my cards, they're not even in my hand.
Sorry.
But I don't think and I think this is something that's telling, that every single doctor I saw at the gender clinic in Daventry was a cisgender man. And now, 8 years later, I recognize that possibly my existence as a trans person was not best understood by those cisgender men.
Shock. Everyone was shocked.
I say that lightly. My existence was somewhat designed so that I would look like a woman.
Exactly. And what does a woman look like?
I know.
Well, it looks like me, but what they don't tell you is, P.S., there's a lot of other stuff, You might want to think about your sex drive.
Exactly.
You might want to think about this. And I was not, the joy of, woo, we're off limits. That I was not warned about that. I was not told. The treatment that you're embarking on has been put together by cis people to make you look like a cisgender woman.
Exactly.
It's important, I think, to really acknowledge the element of passing that comes into transness, and why medicalization exists as a process for trans people, and why that is so affirming for trans people in the first place, because it means safety. I think we look at it as this almost safe haven, and I think, I had to surrender a lot in my brain to say, I'm not going to try and pursue these things privately in my mind, because I wanted to be a public figure that stood for an existence that a lot of people are living in for trans people. And whether that happens in the future, whenever that happens and how quickly it happens, it shouldn't be something we, I think, put on a pedestal, because otherwise, the way that people understand transness through medicalism, which I think is probably the social connotations of transness, the first question you get is, have you had surgery?
Yeah.
As opposed to I've lived for 4 years as a woman outside of drag, and it's without medicalization. Yeah, I also need to acknowledge that there's privilege in being able to do that without medicalization, that there's privilege being able to do in all these things, and be sat on this panel right now and talking about these issues to voices that some people don't have. So, yeah, it's a difficult thing to manage, a difficult thing, I think, when that conversation comes up, it's not necessarily joyful. But I think I found joy in being able to represent that element of transness, a voice we don't often get to hear, I think.
I mean, well, clapping. And additionally, I mean, I don't know whether you would agree or disagree. There is despite the slightly perhaps misguided goals of the doctors that I saw, I enjoy existing this way. This is how I've always wanted to look.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, when I was a kid, and when I was a really little kid, I used to imagine, what will you look like when you grow up? And it was like this.
Yeah.
In fact, interestingly, I was obsessed with April O'Neil from Teenage Mutant Hero Turtle, the cartoon version, not the Megan Fox version, which again ages me. Oh. So look at me sat here in my jumpsuit, like April O'Neil. So, you know, there is, even within the carnage of the NHS, I have found a joy.
Because you've had to reimagine your future. I think if you're a trans person, we're constantly reimagining and unlearning what our future existence are going to be, because we are taught from day dot that it's all Disney. You know, I've spent my life looking, even now today, I'm like, where is my Mrs. Right? Where is she? Where's my Valentine's card? Who's going to sweep me and look after me for the rest of my life? We're constantly living within these norms that society has created, when actually, as a trans person, and by being queer, period, for me, that's about creating your own existence and creating your own joy, a joy that not everybody else understands, but as queer people, we get, you know? So, yeah, I never knew what I would look like when I grew up. I just hoped that I would still be alive. I shouldn't laugh.
Well,
but
no,
I mean, it's like,
again,
it's real
joy
talk.
Joy.
Joy of the gender journey, joy of the gender journey. But no, but that is, again, we said right at the top, I feel like I'm echoing. Is my voice okay? Am I right? It feels like we've acknowledged the truth. We all know it's not all Disney. I'm going to get back on my cards. I want to talk, so we've kind of, Dakota mentioned the word gender euphoria, which is, for my mind, the antithesis of gender dysphoria. Mm-hmm. I love that as a nation, as a world, we're moving away from the notion of you only get to be trans if you have gender dysphoria. I think that's like the very sort of 1990s way of the born in the wrong body, I was repulsed by my body. I think that's kind of petering out.
Yeah.
It's about the gender euphoria, and I'm going to start with Belle, no pressure. When did you first start to enjoy this new life you'd created for yourself?
I think when I moved to London. So I moved to London when I turned 18, and like I didn't have any queer friends. So when I started like making queer friends and going out to like heaven and like love heaven, just living my life that I always dreamed of. I'd say probably when I finally left my little town.
Do you remember a single moment, or was it a gradual?
I think like the first time I went out and I was surrounded by all these drag queens and queer people, and I was just like living my best life in a club. I was like, this is what I was made to do. This is like 10/10. I love that.
Dakota, how about you? Was there a moment where you were like, yep?
I think it's funny. I was super insecure for a long, long time, and I was really insecure. We were filming Drag Race, and I had no idea what I was going to look like on camera. You have no idea. You have no control. You submit all control. Obviously, like they're going to edit it whatever you look like. And being out of drag as well is something. Drag is a heightened version I create myself. I'm very comfortable looking this way and being perceived this way, but I had no idea that I'd get so much love for the way I looked out of drag, and that genuinely, seeing myself on that screen do that silly confessional in my little Amish outfit, I was so happy that it was received positively and that people saw themselves in me in any way, and you know, it was almost like a group euphoria moment, because I had so many people telling me that my visibility was important, simultaneously where I was finally acknowledging for the first time in my life that I actually was happy with the way I chose to present myself. And it's a very rare feeling for trans people to be confident in the way they look, and to actually feel confidence for the first time in my life, a very rare feeling. I pinpointed now, episode 1. I was so happy with seeing myself represented that way.
And Ronx, how about you? Was there a moment of gender euphoria? When and where do you experience gender euphoria?
I don't think I've got any like moments, but I've definitely got pockets of joy. So one pocket of joy was when I do this kids TV show, and my agent said to the BBC team, "Oh, you need to now put Ronx's pronouns as they, them," and then get in my first script that said they, them. I was like, bitch. So that was joy. And then a second joy only happened the other day when I've now got a book out. I'm bigging myself up because no one else is going to.
Plug.
I've got a book out.
Tell us the title of your book, please.
And in it, it's on Amazon. Whatever you think about Amazon, it's there. And it says, Dr. Ronx is a lovable, loud, trans, non-binary loudmouth. And I thought, yes, it's a shame that that joy has come from other people validating my existence, but, you know, hashtag toxic sometimes. So those two elements of joy that I can remember, yeah.
Now this is nice. Again, I don't think any of us can experience joy in isolation.
No.
And we've touched on friends, we've touched on family. Who or what has helped you on your way in your journey? Can we start with Dakota?
My twin. I talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
them
you have a
extensively, a lot on television, essentially, and a lot. Imagine how many times they had to cut their name out of the footage because it just talks about them constantly. But I'm very fortunate enough to grow up with a twin who's also trans, and they are on their own journey that's entirely separate from mine, but simultaneously very similar. So we're identical twins, so we've always been compared against each other. But to actually grow up with someone who also was going through pretty much the same things as you around similar times, I could never imagine what it would be like to do that on my own, and I will never. Thank God, I will never know how that was, because without them, I wouldn't, be as confident as I was today. So certainly, I thank my twin a lot for giving me that confidence, and that's meant the world.
How special to have
very
somebody
special.
so close to go through that with. Amazing. Belle, how about you? Who stands out, or what stands out? It might not be a person, it could be...
I think, going through school, everyone around me was so mean. So, when I got back home, my mum, because my parents, not to trauma dump, but, my parents divorced when I transitioned. So my mum was, my rock, and I have a friend called Kin, who is, my world. She is my #1 hype man, adores me. Oh, I hope she does anyway. And I adore her as well. She's absolutely incredible. So, yeah, it's definitely my mum and her. She's 10-10. I just stopped saying 10-10. I've never said that in my life. Don't know why it's coming out now.
Ronx, how about you? Who or what has helped? It doesn't need to be a person, it could be...
Oh, no, they're definitely people. As I left home when I was 16, family dramas, and never looked back, so I'm estranged from my family. So through my life, I've kind of curated family, and I have maybe 5 really good friends who have literally seen me from, bald-headed, angsty, lesbian Ronx to whatever I am now, and that's about 20 years or so. My friends, and only 2 of them are queer, the rest are straight, but they are people who, when I sit with them, I am me. There's no airs and graces. We can have belly laughs where I swear I'm going to get an 8-pack afterwards. They're people that know I'm ill before I'm even bloody ill. Those are my people, and those are the people that I can call when I'm feeling sad, when I'm feeling happy. They hold me up. My entire human existence, warts and all, is supported by them. And it's to say that in the absence of family is a really hard thing to say, because most LGBTQI people actually don't have family that support them. So I'd say to people as well, find your people and stick with them. And they may not be LGBTQI, but you know your people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, to just talk about myself a bit more,
Go for
I think it's right. I mean, and I feel very lucky, and it is a huge, huge privilege that my biological family has been supportive. Mum, dad, sister, in their own ways. They found it complicated, I'm sure, but they're still there. But even with that, I wouldn't have got this far without my found family.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Find your people.
Find your people.
And I'll tell you when is a really good time to find your people. university. And at Student Pride, where you are going to be surrounded not only by other students, but by other queer students. So find your people.
And it's not always the most like fashionable or popular people that are your people. Like my people are like people, this sounds so bad, but I've got like, they're cis-het with their many, many children and their dog and their house, etc. But they are my people. So it's not always the people that you think.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think I realised I did my stint in London and it wasn't the sort of the party circuit didn't offer me the home I thought it might. And so actually my friends, I think in life you have your vodka friends and your cup of tea friends, and you need a balance of both.
That's a great way of
know, if you've got too many cups of tea friends, that can get a bit lonely, but if you've got too many vodka friends, that can be just as lonely as well.
Exactly.
I think do we all have both?
That's a fabulous way of putting it. I'm going to change my life.
To use that, Dakota. That's yours forever now.
Just out there classifying all my friends as which one was tea or vodka now.
Tea or vodka. Okay, I like this question. I think it's the hardest question on the group panel. Brace yourself. I'm going to start with Ronx.
Uh-oh.
What is the best thing about being trans non-binary?
Ooh!
That noise, everyone.
Sorry, you can tell I do kids' telly because that was so inappropriate. What is the best thing? What is the best thing? The best thing is that there is no definition, so I can self-curate my existence and nobody can tell me nothing. That's it.
Belle.
I think just like living the life that I always dreamed of, like that is just, you can't beat that. Like, this is exactly who I wanted to be, and I'm so happy where I am, I'd say.
Dakota.
I think for me it's a community, and it's finding people that share those experiences with you and being able to celebrate that with people. You know, before, again, like I know moving to cultural hubs isn't always the right thing for everyone, but moving to London for me when I was at university and finding other trans people, that's certainly, I think, the sense of community is the best thing about being trans for me.
You don't have to leave home as a queer person, but it can help. See these people leaving. They're off to find their people. We don't judge you. We don't judge you. We love you. We love you for leaving in the middle of my moment. Hi. Okay, now this is perhaps the second hardest question.
Uh-oh.
Go down.
What is the one thing you wish you'd known 5 years ago, let's say? And we'll come back the other way, so Dakota will start with you.
Honestly, I wish I'd known how long, I wish I'd known that medicalization, how long I'd be on the list for. And I don't say that, I say that as a joyful thing, because to me it's actually allowed me to live a life where I'm not so dependent or thinking about that, and if I can financially access it, or if it's something I even want to do in the first place. It's been, if I knew that before, I think the pressure, I think what stopped me from coming out for ages is knowing the stereotypical process can be, and what we're taught about trans can feel like this really long-winded and unachievable journey financially and physically. And the sort of passing at like a pinnacle of gender, being a successful trans person. And if I knew that wasn't the case, I wish I could tell my 19-year-old self that didn't matter. And I mean, I'd probably still be in a similar position, but hopefully would have got there a bit sooner.
Belle, how about you?
So I would have been 14. I would have been in school, so probably just like keep going, and like it gets better. Like 5 years ago, I was a cleaner in a school, like had no A-levels, had no like plans for life, and like I think, yeah, just it gets better, and it hopefully will keep getting better.
What I love about It Gets Better is it's been used a lot as like a community catchphrase, but it's also true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think yesterday I did a big speech for Attitude where it was kind of like, things are quite bad in the UK right now for trans people, but the great news is it can only get better.
Yeah, it can't get worse.
It feels like it can't get worse. And so strangely, even I yesterday found myself thinking, yeah, it gets better. Wow, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Yeah, it's still true.
Yeah.
And Ronx, what do you wish you had known?
I wish I had known that there was a pandemic coming.
Oh,
Zero lies.
I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought it was science fiction. But.
Zero lies. Honestly. I think it is and sorry to jump on what you've said, I think it is that it gets better. And it gets better in not that binary way again, it's incrementally better. So for every kind of 5 steps we go forward. We do go 2 back a bit, but we're always, the sum of everything is a forward motion. And I think that's what we have to just remember, that we are not where we were in the 1970s or 1950s or 40s. It is getting better. And the generation coming up, your generation, babe, they are amazing and visible and doing things that my younger self couldn't even imagine. It wasn't in my imagination. So, yeah.
And I forget that sometimes
Yeah.
as well. I forget, even though it is a bin fire, in the 80s, we weren't even legally recognized.
Exactly.
You sort of think,
Exactly.
sometimes I get quite misty-eyed about, must have been really lovely in the past where you just went into hiding and you denied you were trans and you took yourself off to Casablanca to have surgery and then, you lied your way through life. But then I think, no, that's insane.
Yeah, right.
Like, I stand before you, a married woman. I was able to legally get married as a woman. These things are gifts, And the problem is our government is trying to take our gifts away.
I think a good way of looking at the bin fire that it is right now is to say it's a reaction to how far we've come.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, to me, if I hear another transphobe be giving a platform, I think, well, that's only a response because another trans person has been given a platform. And there will be probably this fight going on for God knows how long, but I think that will only mean progress, and I hope it only means progress, but that's how I sleep at night.
I think you're right, and I really think, again, this panel is not the joys of gender-critical feminism, but I think society will get bored. I think people are already bored, and I think in the middle of a cost of living crisis, post-pandemic, we've got Turkey, Syria, Ukraine, the world is in carnage. Do you know what people don't really give 2 shits about? How we want to live.
Yeah.
I think people don't. I think it's a slight newspaper confection.
Yeah.
And when people say, but people up north, I'm like, what, like my mum? Oh, yeah, but old people up north. What, like my grandma?
Yeah.
Like, these people are real people, and they have trans kids and trans relatives. The world we exist in is not necessarily the world you see on the radio and television.
Absolutely not. And the young people, like I say, they're reimagining existence. And when people say things like it's a trans debate, it's not a debate. We don't debate human existence. We exist. So I'm feeling like things are going to be. I feel safe in the knowledge that things will never revert so bad that we'll go, just back. I do believe that we are moving forward, and I think we just need to hold on to that belief that things are changing.
And will we stand for it?
Yeah. Oh.
I needed a response.
a very affirming response.
Wow. And okay, to be fair, we've not done much call and response.
Yeah.
Are we going to stand for it?
For what? I'm dead.
But rolling back our rights, we're not standing. No, we will not stand.
We got it. Got there.
Now, that is the difficult portion of the presentation over and done with. And for the last 10 minutes, I want to talk about our day jobs. What is it like to be? Oh, I hate the fucking phrase journey. But what is it like to go on this journey? Trademark. Very much in the full glare of the public eye. I couldn't afford to. I was already a best-selling author.
Woo!
Thank you. When I came out, so I couldn't afford to stop working. Like, I couldn't vanish for 3 years and not do another book and pop out looking like post-Caitlyn Jenner realness kind of. So it was, I had to keep going, and so everybody saw every step of my nurse job. It's all there for you to see, and that comes with challenges and the like. What has it been like for you to be very visible trans non-binary people? Can we start with Ronx?
I think there comes an element in your life when you're in the public eye where you have to make a decision about your existence. And the decision is, are you going to, and each is valid, are you going to take some time out and come back like a brand new person or a different person, which again, I struggle with because I don't like binaries, or I made a decision very early on that for me, my saying is you cannot be what you do not see. So it was important for me that people saw what I was going through, warts and all. And you're right, being a doctor, I had to take time off work. With the telework, I just had to say to them, this is what I'm doing, I'm taking time off work. Yeah, it wasn't easy because people are hateful on social media and will question your existence. And I had somebody liken binding to when, back in the day when Chinese folk used to bind their feet. They said it was the same thing. It's difficult. It was really difficult. But I guess I'm surrounded by really amazing people. And when I just decided that everything that I do, it wasn't that I wanted validation or wanted to justify it. It was more that I never saw this when I was younger. I didn't see black African professionals with they, them pronouns, or even mask, for example, or gay. I just didn't see it. So I guess I've decided now that my existence is not an example, but I want it, and I don't even want to say inspiration, but I want it to be there for people to see and be like, do you know what? That is an option for me. I could do this. I want to be a reference. I want someone to be like, oh, but actually, Dad, I can do X, Y, Z because Dr. Ronx has done this, or Belle's done this, or Dakota. Do you know what I mean? So it's being the pin-up that, I'm not saying I'm a pin-up, let me just track that a bit.
I am.
But being the example of existence that my younger self and younger generations are really craving, and to just stop us from dying. I'm so tired. Sorry, trigger warning, deaf. There are so many trans people dying by suicide, and it just needs to. I just feel like my existence has to be part of that not happening anymore.
Yeah.
Dakota, how about you? So obviously your journey, trademark, was very much a focus of your time on Drag Race.
Yeah.
How was that, and how did you feel about that?
Yeah. I always knew it was going to be, and I think it was important to me that I started that process very quickly. At the audition process, I was very upfront. I was very clear with them about what I saw myself doing on the show, and those mirror chats that Miss Mobley produced. I was like, I need one of those, because to me that was a massive part, and the reason why I wanted to do the show. Was because we had a positive representation of a trans person on the BBC, and I think that would have been unthinkable. And it was certainly unthinkable to me. I just remember thinking they wouldn't want me because I'm too much of a risk or something. And I think it's one of those things where I think what I was so fortunate to see, and I hope that, I mean, I haven't got written feedback, but I know that the feedback has been so overwhelmingly positive from my time on the show and, you know, the talks I had about being trans, that will go forward with casting decisions in the future, but also just in general more trans visibility in the public eye, because to me that's how this conversation, that's how this bin fire can change, is because the more visibility, the more people have reference points. I saw people that I was just at DragCon recently in January, and I saw people coming up to my booth that I'd probably like be scared of in the street before, like I like out of just like a sheer like sociological standpoint. I was like, I can't believe these people are saying the things that they are to me, like how parents came, you know, bring their kids and were saying like, you help me understand my child. Like what other, like what, like I couldn't even sleep that night because I was just so like overwhelmed by even being told that and actually seeing the direct action of just going on a silly little pink TV program, but it really meant the world.
It's a gift. It is a gift. And
I'm so privileged.
it's a lot of pressure, but...
A lot of pressure.
But imagine, but now you have helped. You've changed the conversation. Sleep sound, Schiffer. And Belle, now your life is about to change. Obviously, Heartstopper Season 1, I think, I know Alice Oseman, and I think it exceeded even their wildest expectations. Now, this is the moment, again, let's not invoke the Netflix gods. What can you tell us about your role in Heartstopper?
So I play a girl called Naomi, and I have a very strong friendship with Elle, and I think that would be really nice for everyone to see. It's two trans girls conquering the world. And yeah, I think Netflix have done a really good job at, you know, breaking more boundaries in season 2. I'm being really professional saying this. And they are, they're reaching new audiences and they're sort of unlocking new things. I think I've seen the trailer and I've watched, it's going to be amazing. And the script is incredible.
That's it. Don't say anymore.
Yeah, and I had to stop
I
talking.
promise I will let
That's a
Belle
red
say
line.
anything.
That's more info than I thought we might get, to be honest. So that
it's
is
like,
amazing.
it's just incredible. I'm excited for everyone to see it.
And how are you sort of preparing for that sort of the influx of interest that will, because the Heartstopper fan base
Yeah.
is a passionate fan base. How are you prepping for that kind of?
I know some of the cast have like sort of prepared me a little bit, but I think because I've always shared my life online, so I've sort of used to be in the public, I'm not really in the public eye, but sort of media eye. But I think it's just going to be a different level, which I'm not really prepared for. I think I'll just take like a week out and go to Spain or something. To be fair, it's big in Spain anyway.
It is, I'm going to say big in
anywhere
Brazil.
we go. But yeah, I just sort of going to take it as it comes and just hopefully it's received well, which I think it will be.
Because when we first met, we met at like a weird book thing
Yeah,
last year.
that was really
And then I followed you back on social media. You have like thousands and thousands of followers. But do you take comfort in knowing that when you're very much in control of your social media?
Yeah, so I've always been able to like choose what I post online. I've done it since I was like sort of 16. So like I'm so used to sharing my life online, and acting was always something that was on the sidelines. Like it was something I always wanted to do, but like my teacher said to me at school, like there's no point in pursuing it. Sort of drop your dreams, and now I am.
Yay!
So,
yes.
They're eating their words.
Those
Do that.
teachers,
Do
they're
that.
so annoying.
The next day, after Heartstopper got announced, I went back to my school fair and I saw her and I was like, have you seen the news?
What's the teacher's name?
Her name's Miss Smith. That's her.
Dragger.
What's her
I
name?
always say to Miss Smith.
Stephanie.
Well,
She's well, actually.
but do you know that? But again, that's the thing, isn't it? Which is, pre-transition, I was told I
Mine's
was
on
too
LinkedIn.
feminine. Post-transition, I was told you're not feminine enough to be an actor.
Yeah.
I've been in Holby City.
We live for that.
There we go. I was a strung-out wastrel in Holby City.
You're
So you could do anything. You too could be a drug-addled, washed-up criminal who stabs your friend on Holby City.
I love that.
That is all the time we have got for this panel. That's a great way to And you know what? I think we've managed to keep that more or less quite joyful. I think we've managed to achieve what it was we wanted to do. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm now going to race to the loo because I just have needed poo for about the last 10 minutes. You know when things are starting to get quite like... so yeah, that's where I'll be. See you in the toilet. But before I do that, can I please have an enormous round of applause for our first panellist this afternoon? We've got Dakota Schiffer, Belle Priestley, and Dr. Ronx Ikharia.